But the Dutch doctors were not government physicians. They were private practitioners. They still believed in the Hippocratic Oath and treating the individual patient like they were really their own mother. You know, they were not going to be bad. And they said, no, we're not going to participate in that. And the Germans said, if you don't participate, we're going to take away your medical license. Boom. Every Dutch doctor gave in their medical license rather than participate in this. But fast forward to today. 2000, euthanasia is legalized in Holland, or in the Netherlands, okay? And in fact, they have the system now that the Nazis wanted to give them. The British Medical Journal reported in 1997 that 8% of deaths in the Netherlands were for euthanasia for deformity. Now, what are we talking about? Missing finger, you know, what are we euthanizing for? And a third of pediatricians participated, and they weren't honest about it on the death certificate, by the way. So in the Netherlands today, if you're under the age of 10, your number one cause of death is your physician. Now, you know, we can have an honest discussion about assisted suicide, you know, about helping your wife die because she's in such terrible pain, but what I think nobody can argue, I think we should never let physicians get involved in that. Whatever your other beliefs about euthanasia or whatever, when physicians start being the instruments of death, then you can't trust them to be the instruments of your life. When I take my kid to the pediatrician, I don't want him thinking, does he meet the criteria for life or should I just off him? You know, I don't want him thinking that. They have a great thing now. This is really the highest irony. Okay, so there is a pushback in the Netherlands today. These doctors are kind of saying, wait a minute. This is really what the Nazis brought us. You know, we don't want to do this anymore. So it's getting harder to get your doctor to kill you, euthanize you. So the Dutch government, not to be outdone, because honestly it saves them a lot of money, this euthanasia thing. So they've come up with the mobile solution, okay? And it's these vans where I don't know how it works, you call 1-800-KILL-ME or something, but they whiz around and you can call up this euthanasia squad and they show up at your door and this doctor will kill you. Now he doesn't know if you just got depressed because you dropped your favorite china plate. I mean, he doesn't know if you really have a terminal disease. He doesn't know you from Adam, but it's euthanasia on demand. And this is the great irony. The German Hospice Association is protesting this, saying this is an inhumane proposal. You know, I love it. The Germans have come full circle, and now the Dutch. Well, you know, when you don't think it's going to happen to you, there's a book called They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer, who was a liberal Jewish writer in New York who went and spent 2 or 3 years in Germany after the war. And he learned, and he met 10 guys, he reported on 10 guys that had been Nazis throughout that period of time to kind of get to understand what it was all about. And this is what one of the college professors told him. He was really just in the Nazi party to keep his job. He said, to live in this process is to absolutely not be able to notice it. No more saw it developing day to day than a farmer in his field sees the corn growing. One day it's over his head. I mean, I'm shocked at what's been happening the last few years, but it's just, this is a very gradual process happening in America, and one day it's going to be over our head. And he also made this point, it's a Latin phrase, principius obsta finem respice, resist the beginnings, consider the end. Now, in Nazi Germany, when this all happened, they didn't have a world history to look back on. They didn't know what the beginnings looked like, but we do. We should be paying attention. So, in summary, I'm going to tell you, government medicine gives you shortages, long lines for care, poorer outcomes, it's more expensive, it interferes with the doctor-patient relationship, and ultimately, it kills people by one way or another. You know, and how did we get here? We got here because we accepted the premise that government has the right to regulate anything it wants to on the basis of safety, and you have to resist that. I mean, it made sense to have limits to smoking, I guess, and seat belts. But then we started limiting medicines you could prescribe and limit the number of hours doctors could work. You guys don't maybe have this problem, but in Arizona they limited the dust by farmers. Now we're in a desert. I mean, how can you do that? You know, limited food additives. I wrote in question mark food, but that was before they took that little girl's lunch away and forced her to have the government food. You limits now in Iowa. Who can build your house when you have to have a master's electrician's permit before you can put in any wiring? It's terrible. So you have to ask yourself, are you safer or are you just less free? Thomas Jefferson wrote, I predict future happiness for the American people if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of it. That's where we are today. Now, I'm going to have, Ramona Bose is a longtime friend of mine, and she's there, and as you leave, there's some papers, because I didn't talk about the solution, but there is a solution to this, and it's cash, what I talked about on John Stossel, cash, catastrophic insurance, and charity. We're the most charitable nation in the world. We took care of our poor people in 1949. We're not lying on the street for lack of health care. We can do this. I trust the individual and my neighbor, not the government. Anyway, she, as a long-term teacher here at Spencer, she knows how to pass out papers. So she's going to have them there as you walk out. You can get a copy of whatever articles you want, but this is the one that has, in my opinion, the solution to this problem, free markets. And the AAPS, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, we're the only medical organization that has officially challenged Obamacare in court. We promote cash practices, and we actually sponsored Yuri Maltsev to come to Omaha. He's economic advisor to Gorbachev, a great guy, and he talked about what we should have learned from Soviet healthcare, which is a great video on YouTube at the Mises Institute. And you can have an associate membership with us for something like $35 a year and foster liberty in healthcare. And if you want to do that, it's aapsonline.org. I've got a blog spot. I'm going to change the name. Prognosispoor.blogspot.com. It's got a lot of stuff I've written. And I have a book coming out that isn't here in time for this, unfortunately. You can, Tales from the Surgeon's Lounge. You can find it on Amazon maybe in a month. But I got a question. Here's your pop quiz at the end of this. Okay. Does anybody know what this is? Somebody's seen it. Somebody's got this email. Okay, but you have to keep quiet. I got to tell the punchline. This is actually a medical device that is used for, it was made on the theory that smoke was healthy. The Native Americans believed in the medicinal powers of smoke. This is a smoke enema. So when a politician is blowing smoke up, I just want you to know we have the equipment to do it. Ralph come up. I want Ralph to talk a little about, the governor of Iowa just said he was going to do the state exchanges. And I kind of wanted Ralph to tell a little about what it is to live in Canada and then to talk about the state exchange issue or whatever you think. Thanks, Ralph.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ralph Weber, and as Dr. Hieb said, I am originally Canadian. I left Canada 8 years ago when my wife was crippled by a 2.5-year wait for surgery. In Canada, doctors are only allowed to see so many patients per year. And once they've seen that number, they can't get paid for seeing any more. So the doctors generally close up their shop in around September because they're out of time. They can't see anybody. So they come to Florida, Arizona, stay the winter. My son, who's 6'7", was prohibited from playing basketball in Canada because he was too tall. He had an unfair advantage, so he wasn't allowed to play basketball. Also, he got hit by a car. He was riding his bicycle. He was hit by a car. His head went through the windshield. He was unconscious on the pavement for about 3 minutes. He was taken to emergency. He waited 4.5 hours, and he got an x-ray and 6 stitches and was discharged. No CT scan. The technology just wasn't available. Okay? My mother, when she was 65, was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was told because of her age, the only option available was a double mastectomy. That's it. No chemo, no radiation. Take it or leave it. Okay? So these 3 events didn't all happen at once, but the cumulative effect of these, I said, this isn't worth my health. Now, I didn't grow up in Canada. I grew up in Thailand, Nepal, and Germany, but I am originally from Canada. After this, I said, I can't do this anymore, and I left. Now, my wife was from California, so originally we went to California. Then I heard them talking about single-payer plan in California. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? The Canadian health system